Welcome to AstroChat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monica Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks. Hi, and welcome to another episode of AstroChat. We are talking today about the transits happening from the full moon of February for the following 2 weeks. So basically from February 16th to March 2nd. For those of you who haven't already looked at the chart for the full moon, it's happening on February 16th at 16:56 Universal Time. So if you're in Texas, Central Time, Texas, that's 10:56 a.m. For those in the UK, that's 4:56 p.m. And for those in Finland, that is 6:56 p.m. We will try to put timestamps below if you're watching this on YouTube so that you can jump to some of the your favorite topics, if you will. And don't forget that we are on both YouTube and we can be found on Spotify, iTunes, and we have a website on BuzzFeed. Those will all be in the links below as well. So let's start off just by talking about the fact that it is a full moon. Any full moon phases are so exciting, so powerful. So many people use them from different reasons, different traditions. For me, the full moon is beautiful because it's this melting pot of energy. For 2 weeks, the moon has been getting larger and larger, and things are growing. And whatever I'm visualizing, I've been putting energy into. Whatever I want to grow in my life, I'm putting energy into. Whatever's growing in the garden, I've been putting energy into. And here is this moment of culmination. And at the same moment that everything is culminating, it is also released. And we literally are on a threshold of 2 weeks of growth coming to the pinnacle. And at the same time, we're now stepping into the beginning of the waning side of the moon, the 2 weeks of the moon becoming smaller and more about darkness. So it's like excitement and culmination combined with release. I know I'm using that word culmination a lot, but that to me is just the essence of full moon. It's bringing everything that we've been thinking and working and dreaming and focusing on, bringing it to this point of now it is formed, now it is finalized, now I can release that out into the universe and trust that it's going to come back to me. Or now I can release what I've been working on and trust that I've done a good enough job and I can let it go. Monica, I know you work with the full moon a lot. What do you think about full moon energy?
I agree. I mean, culmination, release of energy, that's the basics of the full moon. I think we all work with that. As you were talking about the full moon, there was one memory that was coming to me when I went to visit a Buddhist monastery in the middle of Scotland, and it's in the middle of absolute nowhere. And I got there quite late. And there are 2 sets of buildings. There's one big building, the monastery, where the taxi dropped me off. And there's a smaller building down the road where I was actually staying. And it wasn't, if it wasn't for the light of the full moon, I wouldn't be able to find it because it was so dark. And if you've ever been in a space at night where the full moon is, something incredible happens. The whole landscape changes. You see the same world around you as you do in a daylight, but in completely different light, pun intended. And I think this is what's happening to us at the full moon as well. We see the world around us in completely different light, and the world that we want to create at the new moon, the kind of vision that we're putting out there, the seed of the vision, it's suddenly we can see that in the light of the full moon, and we can find our way. How do I work with the full moon? In 2 ways, really. There are 2 kind of ways that I do try to work with that energy. One is gratitude, something that I planted, something that I really work hard in that waxing phase, something that I was putting my energy forward. I was building, I was making sure that it's polished, it's growing. Suddenly it's coming to bloom. And this is the moment in a cycle, very short moment in a cycle, that we can stop and just enjoy that bloom. Whether it's in the garden, in our lives, in the project that we're working on, we're actually celebrating, and we can express that gratitude. That energy is just bursting. We achieved something. And I think it's very often in our lives, we skip that phase. We plant an idea, we work away, we achieve something, and then we quickly move on to the next project, to, letting go and so on. And we miss that moment of that full bloom. And I love using the full moon energy to just do that, to express my gratitude, to celebrate little things in my life and the big things in my life. The other way I use the full moon energy, and we'll be probably talking about it given the aspects of this full moon as well, is full moon effectively is the sun and the moon opposing each other. And so you have two luminaries in the sky, two, so to speak, astrological planets that give off that light in opposition with one another. So the light, for me, it's so strong, there is nowhere to hide, which means all the shadows are coming out. That opposition, it's very easy to see something that you're opposing to, whether it's political views, different religious views, whether it's just a different trend that you can't agree with your colleague or a friend. That kind of shadow material, it doesn't have a place to hide in a chart, so to speak, and that's coming up during the full moon as well, with quite a bit of a force. So again, I think it's a perfect time to work with that, to see that in the light of the moon. What is it that I'm opposing to? And I'm sure we will go into that a bit more. So yes, that's me working with the full moon. Anne, would you love to add something to that?
Yeah, I think the full moon in Leo is my moon sign. So I'm looking forward to the energy to feel this full moon also, and how I feel it with my own moon. I was looking at the Sabian symbol of this moon, and that's interesting. It says that it's many little birds on a limb of a big tree. There's a lot of different also potentials or spontaneous things that you like, self-expressional things that you might want to do, and it might also be a bit maybe confusing, like where do I want to go? I also see that this moon is, it's the fruits of what you have started the new moon, but still you might see like different potentials that you want to follow, or you want to continue, and you might maybe not be sure of which one that you want, or you want to do all of them. So this might also be, I feel that Leo can also be really, it can be important for the direction you want to go now, or for continuing, and where you want to put the effort, and where you want to still develop these projects that you have started. So somehow I feel also that we have a really inspirational energy here to work with.
Leo new moon, it's a really fiery moon, right? Leo is, let's go back to the basics, right? Leo is the fixed sign, it's the fire sign. So we have a lot of that going on during this full moon. If anyone has, like you, if they have moon in the sign of Leo, this moon, this energy should feel very familiar to them. Because it will resonate on the same level as they have it in their own natal charts. So it would be interesting to hear from people who have moon in Leo, how they resonate to this full moon. But for me, the full moon in Leo as well, it's that apex of what Leo stands for, which is the heart, the creativity, the leadership from the heart, that really true leadership that comes from our heart chakra, if you want, from that core of our values. And again, in opposition to that Aquarian sign, that's the leadership that leads us into something better for humanity. And to do that, we really need to lead from the heart. Otherwise, it can be very detached, very cold, and the structures that are going to be put in place for the humanity, that kind of utopia that we can build through Aquarian revolution, doesn't actually have that light, that warmth, that heart-centered energy around it. And I think this is what the full moon's actually showing us. Given our last episode, what we were talking about, the new moon in Aquarius, it's all about, it was very Uranian new moon, and also had that a strong Saturnian structure. So we were talking about centric part of you. And I think this is the full moon. It's like, how do you express that creativity in you, that beautiful fire that is in you, that solar spark that is within you? How do you express that? How do you celebrate that? How do you feel that gratitude for that beautiful gift that you are for the rest of humanity, for your tribe, for the community around you? And I think this is a beautiful full moon that kind of can express that. We will go to so many aspects around that moon, but I'll stop here because I'm sure Kimberly wants to add something as well.
Yeah, when don't I have an opinion? I'm just going to add that I love everything you were saying. It is so important, I think, that we come from that very Leo heart-centered place. But I'm also going to throw out there that in addition to getting in touch with our own personal creativity, I feel like this is a time about our collective creativity. How can we be creative in coming up with out-of-the-box ways of approaching maybe the trauma in life? How do we get creative about the ways we want to express and celebrate in the groups? How do we creatively find our tribe, our groups? We mentioned last time, talking about all that Aquarius energy, about the need to find your tribe. This full moon to me symbolizes a time that for our ancestors, this would have been, we're coming out of the cold of winter. We're not out of it yet, but we're starting to come out of the like huddled around our own little hearth of our home and going back to the collective fire, right? And doing collective projects and getting things ready. And so I feel this sense of like that moon is reflecting back to the sun. Okay, how do we use creativity to find our tribe, be with our tribe, celebrate with our tribe? One of my spiritual communities has moved our annual celebration, if you will, our annual meeting celebration revels to February. And it feels so appropriate because it's like, yeah, it's a time where we are coming together and being creative and just celebrating the joy of us and our approach and how we do things. So I think that's how it's resonating. And if you can't hear it, it's hitting my Jupiter. So it's making an exact conjunction to my Jupiter. So I'm feeling very much enlivened just looking at the chart for this.
It's interesting because I think this new moon is actually full moon is actually doing something to all of our charts, because it will be, well, a degree away from my own sun and sun opposition. So that's interesting. It is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you say, whatever we are, and when we are in our fullness, when we are stepping into that true path, and I don't mean those kind of amazing, things that you can do, become a superstar in terms of your destiny, but when you're actually stepping into the path of destiny that you came here, even if it is, as beautiful as volunteering for your animal shelter, that you're living your purpose. And even by that, you're changing people and society around you, because you're drawn to people who do what you do, and you draw in the people who are fascinated and inspired by you. And I think this is for me that Leonian energy in opposition to that Aquarian. When we really live our own purpose, we shine from within. And it doesn't matter if we're collecting stamps, or if we're interested in stars, or whether we're amazing, sax player, or piano player. When we really truly in our purpose, we're living that sun like quality in us, we inspire people around us. We drew people who can sense that warmth around us, that passion around us, that inspirational creative power. And that's the power that can change the communities, like Kim was just saying, you know, that's the power that changes the tribes around us. Leo is sometimes say, again, one of the archetypes for Leo is that we want to be center stage and we want to have an audience. And again, this is the light and the shadow of that side. In the light, when we really stand in there and we are standing in our purpose, we drew that audience because they are just drawn to the light that we have. And to that, like I said, to that warmth, to that creativity, to that beauty that we just radiate outside. And if we don't stand in our purpose, the shadow side of that is we're doing something just for the sake of doing it because we want an applause, because we want that audience, because we want to stand in that spotlight. And that's when that shadow thing is. That's where the Leonian pride takes over. And that's where we, instead of being creative, we're actually deconstruct something within us that actually hurts our heart. That's what I would say as well. And this full moon is incredibly potent because it's actually squaring nodal axis. So we were talking in a previous episode that nodes moved to Taurus and Scorpio. So we actually have now, at the time of the full moon, a grand cross in a fixed signs. So everything that we were just talking about, that full moon, looking at the apex of what you achieved from the new moon, look at what you planted at the new moon, what you can be grateful for and celebrate at the full moon, look at the creativity at the community and the tribe around you. That also now has that resonance with the nodal axis, which is in the Taurus and Scorpio. And to me, that kind of brings the even bigger themes, like Kimberly was just saying, even the bigger themes of what support do we have in community, the Taurian thing, what support, what values do we share with our community, and what fears are triggered, the Scorpio, what fears or secrets are triggered through that. I'm just going to put it in there as well that the ruler of the nodal axis at the moment, so Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Scorpio, the ruler is the Mars. That's a traditional ruler.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt your flow. It's so beautiful. But for people who are listening and not watching, can we just tell them really quick what we're looking at with this chart that we pulled up? We've got, of course, the sun is at 27 Aquarius opposite the moon at 27 Leo. But now we're pulling in the south node at 26 Scorpio, right? And on the other side, the north node at 26 Taurus, just for people who are trying to get the image in their head. So sorry to interrupt you, Monica.
That's all right. So yeah, so we have two nodes, north and the south, and sun and the moon in opposition, and all of them creating that huge square in the sky. And the traditional ruler of the nodal axis are Venus and Mars. And at the time of the full moon, they're actually coming together in the sign of Capricorn as well. So this full moon, I mean, the new moon was incredible, and I love our episode about the new moon. But this time, everything that we've done around new moon is coming to an apex, and it's coming with that force of the nodal axis, which is linked to the path of destiny, which is linked to bigger events. And the rulers of that are involved in that full moon as well. So they are actually speaking to us from the sign of Capricorn. They're speaking about the structure and maturity, and whether our passion and our action are structured, whether we're mastering them, whether we are taking accountability for the actions that we take in the name of love, in the name of our desires, in the name of rage, maybe, and how that fits within that full moon of I am here, I'm living my purpose from that heart center place. And how do I balance that support, the Taurian support and groundedness with the fears that it might bring up?
Really good point. I think fear is so prevalent here. There's definitely a lot of underlying perhaps past shadow, something about the what I'm afraid of, whether it's based in reality or it's just based in my imagination, that fear bubbling up to be released. I love the fact that the south node is what's placed in Scorpio this go round, right? That it's I think I'd have a different feeling if it was the north node. But since it's the south node, it's more about what am I releasing? Where have I stood in my place of power in the past? And what can I learn from that? Because I feel like the south node often gets a bad rap. So I want to just champion a little shout out that I love the south node. It's about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, as they say. It's about, I believe for me, recognizing what are the patterns I'm stuck in and I need to move beyond and I need to let go. But what are the things I've actually learned, the skills I've developed that I need to honor, recognize, and keep with me? It's kind of like I'm opening my toolbox, taking out all the tools, getting a new toolbox, and deciding what tools I want to put in. That's kind of my metaphor with it. And since it's that Scorpio energy, I think there's a lot here about power, disempowerment, empowerment, and tapping into what you mentioned about with this full moon, the shadowy side of Leo. You know, for me, a lot of times power is when have I been seen? When have I been ignored? Disempowerment is the, yeah, we'll get back to you later, or the shush, 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 right? And on the opposite side with that Taurus energy, when have I felt valued? So I think there's a lot going on here about really getting some vision, right? Full moon vision about what do I really value about myself, about others, about my community? What is my place? And do I feel like I'm honoring my place? Do I need to step up to the mark, or am I already there? And are others giving me the space to step in and do my bit? And so there's a lot I think that could be happening internally with this push-pull tension. But I don't want to talk too much because I feel like I always want to hear what Anne has to say when it comes to the nodes. They're so prevalent in karmic astrology, and I love your take on it. So, and I think you have something to mention to us about that Grand Cross energy as well. So take it away, Anne.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting with the Grand Cross in fixed signs on those degrees also. The last degrees, it kind of intensifies everything. And then when you're talking about potential, about where to grow, where to put your trust, I think about that sun squaring the nodes, and about development, and about the ego, and about where can we feel that we can shine, or we can develop, or what direction. And like you said, where do we have the room from others? Where are we allowed to go? Where do we maybe take a bit too much room, or where do we what I think that this can be like about getting opportunities, losing opportunities, going in a different direction, in another way of developing. Like this is a bit of a, like in karmic astrology, we talk about fated stuff, and this is a figuration that has to do with more with the fated themes, like where are you going in your karmic development? Where's your place to shine in this world, your place to develop in this world somehow. So it's kind of, and it's a very old karmic energy when there's fixed signs and those degrees, it's symbolizing more of old stuff that we are dealing with from long ago. So really interesting in when Monica also talked about this, about the shadow, and about where do we take the pride, where do we feel that we can shine, and where will we see resistance maybe for that, or we have to think about our limitations, and where do we have a pure joy and pure idea about what we're going to do, or is it too much about ego stuff? So this is really interesting energy for that.
You know, something you just said took me back to what Monica shared with our last podcast about 2021 being the great resignation. You know, we're resigned to this is just not working, and we are resigning. And so I've talked to a lot of people about that, and many of my friends are telling me how they're feeling the urge to find the passion. Like they didn't have the great brainstorm last year of I want to open a bakery, or you know, this is what I want to do. It's more this is what I don't want to do. but the what do I want to put my energy towards hasn't quite crystallized yet. And so I'm wondering if some of this is also that passion coming forward and maybe working through some of the blocks that have stopped us, because quite frankly, if I want to move forward in a new and different way, I'm going to have to face the fears about what that new and different way might mean. The changes it brings may not be as scary as what those changes could imply. I don't know. I'm just sitting here kind of pondering. I wonder how many people will get some of that burst of Leo creativity in terms of really bringing their authentic self forward in their daily life.
I like that. I mean, again, I'm just going to go back to that new moon in Aquarius that we were talking about. Full moon is effectively a culmination, an apex of that energy that we started at the new moon. So for me, whether it's the first quarter of the moon, the full moon, or the last quarter, I tend to go back to that original spark for that month. So what happened at that time? What was the energy at the time? And that was the energy very connected with Saturn. The new moon was actually in Saturn. So we were talking about having those structures to explore your weird, your creativity, your uniqueness. And now you have time to actually express that. But then again, like we're just saying, do you have structures in your life that can support that expressive energy and that beauty and that joy that you feel? Or actually, is it fearful? Is it safe? Again, that nodal axis around Taurus, across the Taurus Scorpio, it's also about where is safe for you to express yourself that way, because we know that it's not necessarily safe for a lot of people to express who they are, how they are. Sometimes it's not not safe on so many levels. I'm not just talking about physical, but even emotional. It's not okay to express who you are in your workplace, because that can have a repercussion on your career or the way you are perceived at work. So this is the time of culmination and kind of grabbing that joy and shining that light. But also the questions from those nodes is like, is it safe? Is it stable? The Taurus, is it stable? Is it grounded? Or is it dangerous? And I think that Mars, moving to Mars and Venus in that conjunction in Capricorn, we were just talking about it before we started recording. It's actually unusual because Venus coming out of retrograde, she's still quite slow, which means that that pair will travel in the sky for quite some time. So they have a exact conjunction at the time of the full moon, and they will come together again closer to Pluto just before the new moon in March. And I'm not sure, Kimberly, you're really good at the dates and
I was just going to say, I actually marked the dates because it's so rare to have this many days where they are a partile, an exact conjunction. So they're at exactly the same degree from the 14th to the 18th of February, on the 20th of February, the 23rd, the 24th of February, and then the 27th and the 28th of February. That is a lot of, and then of course, all the days in between, they're going to be conjunct with an orb, with a very tight orb. So that's a really strong, powerful 2-week window there of this Venus-Mars energy.
Yeah. And like we said, those are the two planets that at the moment rules the nodal axis. So there is something about that, and we will be talking about the nodal axis for the next God knows how long, because the nodes will stay in those signs for 18 months, and obviously this year we'll have eclipses in those signs, so we'll be coming back to this theme on and on and on again. But there's something intriguing about those two planets, Venus and Mars, coming together and bringing those topics, and they're coming together in the sign of Capricorn. So they're bringing the topic about the safety and the power and the fear around Capricornian themes. So around our structures, both in our lives, what the structures do we have? Where do we take accountability? Do we take that accountability out of fear? Do we take that accountability to build strong foundation, very Victorian? That can be at the level of the society, what kind of structures are within the governmental, within the governments of the cultures and countries that we live in. How do we put those foundations for our lives as a society? And are those foundations based in fear and manipulation, very Scorpionic, or other foundations built in sustainability and, that kind of earthy Taurian grounded approach to life. We had so much division over the last year and a half, with nodes being in Gemini and Sagittarius, and especially that North Node in Gemini really kind of showed us polarization within our societies on so many levels. So now is the kind of question: can we create something sustainable? Can we create something grounded? Can we create something based in like earth on so many metaphorical level? I'm not just talking about ecology, but actually that kind of earthy, grounded feeling as well. Or are we led by fear and manipulation and power struggles, both within our own lives, within our own relationship, within the media, within the governments? And where is those lies coming out, the manipulation coming out? We're just going into that full moon on the back of Mercury conjunct Pluto as well. So that communication from the depth, communication of secrets, I think that will come back and come back again, where the Mercury will come back to and conjoin Saturn just before the new moon. So the next 2 weeks, I think there is a little bit of a theme of communication coming back from the depth, maybe some secrets revealed, and also how do we communicate what foundations we want to create as people within, like I said, within our lives, within our workplaces, within our friends groups, but also within the bigger society. How do we communicate what has value to us? Very, very Taurian, very Venus. What has value? What do we desire? And how do we take an action towards that?
Yeah. I'm going to comment too that Pluto, that's at 27 degrees of Capricorn, just past that conjunction of Mars and Venus, it is making a sextile and a trine to the nodes, right? And so I feel like whenever Pluto is brought in, secrets are revealed. Whenever Pluto is brought in, our deepest, darkest fears are coming to light. And even though these are harmonious aspects, it doesn't lessen the intensity to me for Pluto. In fact, I think this is saying it's time that we actually acknowledge, maybe if we have a resistance to doing something with all these fixed signs, I'm pretty sure that our inner resistance is probably being activated. If we have a resistance, maybe we need to look at the fear behind that. What is the deep fear? I mean, especially with relationships, I'm afraid to get into a relationship, but what is the reason behind it? Is it the last relationship and I still haven't healed? Is it something from early childhood? Is it something I've watched? Is it my belief system that healthy relationships exist for others, not for me? The layers. We use the word fear a lot, I believe, and sometimes it can be an all-encompassing word, but there are layers to fear. So this isn't just oh, I'm nervous. This is Pluto. This is what's at your core. I'm really afraid if I face this fear, if I lift this carpet, if I see what's underneath, the sky is going to fall because life is going to change. And so unconsciously, even though we may not know in our conscious mind exactly how things are going to play out, I believe that unconsciously we have a sense that if I take this step forward, if I walk on this path, it may seem like a little step now, but it's going to have huge, huge results, and they may be for my betterment, but that doesn't mean that I'm not still feeling like everything's changing. And that I think with Pluto, one of the biggest fears can often be the fear that I'm now giving up my control or it's being taken away from me. That often is the illusion of safety, is if I have some control. So I totally echo everything you said about that. And I'll just throw in that in addition, Pluto's amping up everything that you just said. Yeah.
I just think with the Scorpio and the Pluto Mercury theme, that both were exposing things that were hidden in different ways, then it's also a good time to face those fears in the way that talk about them, to take them out of the fear space and make them into, to go through them and to grab the how do you say it in English? To grab the bull by the head. How do you
By the
say?
horns.
Horns, yeah. To make it concrete, and it's not that. Then you see that this is not so much so terrible as I thought, or that I'm afraid of. That you can raise themes that are maybe have been hard to talk about, and this is a good energy, and it might be very therapeutic with Pluto and Mercury, but it might also be very very deep conversations, very conversations about very subjects that are hard to talk about.
I really like that you brought that up, because Mercury via Pluto, it's such a great aspect to start therapy, to actually use that mercurial I can't speak today, energy to actually communicate your darkest, deepest desires and fears and thoughts, and this is such a good time to actually find someone that you can speak to in secure, safe, non-judgmental, structure or place. At the same time, if you not, again, the kind of the light and dark aspect of anything, if you're not, then you can actually use your words as a weapon. You can use your words to manipulate, you can use your words to hurt others on that deep level, because you can use that Plutonian, really Plutonian rage as well to hurt others, and through the use of words, whether it's in argument, whether it's publishing something, and actually, maybe doing something unsavory with it. So again, that is an incredibly interesting aspect. Do we use that aspect with a positive force, and actually trying to understand our deepest, darkest desire, and have that communication with our shadow? Or do we use the communication and the power that we have through words, through our platforms that we have on social media, through our platforms that we have in media, or through our platforms that we have, in our workplaces, to actually take control, to manipulate others, and to I don't know, find power and disempower others? So it's a really interesting full moon.
Really is. And I want to talk a little more about, or go a little deeper about the conjunction with Venus and Mars. I love it when they're together in the same sign. I thrive. I just adore it, because, if Venus is what I desire, and often many of us are unaware of what we're truly desiring, right? We're focusing more on what we must do rather than what we want to do. In this lovely Western world. But if it's what I desire and Mars is how I go get it, when they're the same sign, we're aligned. It's not like, well, I'm desiring to, be working more, but I'm spending all my time at home or something, when they're in different signs. It's like they're unified. What I want and what I'm going for are the same. They're in the same category. I'm excited. And Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So like, roll up the sleeves and let's work hard. I can do it. A lot of people, we talked last month ad nauseum about the Capricorn stelliums that were happening and how everything felt like such hard work. I feel like this month we still have that Capricorn energy, but it's not the overwhelming, arduous, hard work of climbing the mountain. It's I'm almost at the mountaintop. I can see that tunnel. I'm going to do it. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to make it happen. I'm loving this energy. And I feel like, because it's happening so often, there's so many exact contacts here of this conjunction. Yeah, I think everything we've talked about, the nodes, the Pluto, all of this has a lot to do with what's going on with relationship. My place in groups isn't just about my place in the group. It's what is my place with that leader or with that follower, or where am I, or who looks to me as a leader or a follower? What about my relationships? What about the people I live with? Relationships can be romantic, they can be platonic, but I feel like this is almost hitting every layer. It's that what work do I want to do? And this, I think, is a great time for anyone who's struggling with a relationship in their life that's meaningful, this is a great time to say, let's do some work. Let's get to a healthy balance. Let's work on being more intimate. Let's work on fill in the blank. This is great energy for like, all right, this isn't something that fell apart overnight. And after the last 2 years, a lot of people have had to live together a lot more often than they wanted to, right? I mean, those who've had to like suddenly work from home, it's like, whoa, we're together hours and hours, or the situation has changed, or finances have changed, and there's been stress that impacts relationships. So I just feel like if there is something that we haven't looked at about relationship, or that we're dissatisfied with, or that we just simply, it's good, but I want to make it better, like now's a great time to really dig in there to how do we work together? How can we make this happen? Because I think people in general are on board with this idea of I'm willing to work at those interpersonal and communication dynamics.
And I just want to add to that, we can't see it in this chart, but we also have the asteroid Vesta. That's very close to Venus and Mars. And Vesta is also a very good earthy asteroid for commitment and for going for the goal that you want. So that might add to this energy of working on something and committing to doing a change, for example.
I mean, commitment is the word with a Capricorn, isn't it? This is what we're talking actually about, Capricorn energy. It's very much a commitment to something, commitment to a goal, commitment to a project, commitment at work, or in this case, like Kimberly, you were saying, commitment to a relationship. This is maybe actually the energy as well with Mars, taking action and taking those steps to commit yourself to what you desire or who you desire. This is the time where you can actually take an action and express that and put that that beauty of that relationship, and put the structure around it, put the foundation for it, make that commitment and say, okay, this is it. Let's do that. Let's do it. Yeah, it's a really intense energy, and those two planets coming together for so long. I am looking forward to explore this energy over the next 2 weeks. I mean, I have that energy of those two coming together in my own chart. So that blend of what you desire and how you go for it, it's kind of well known to me. But I am looking forward to exploring that in Capricorn.
Yeah, and with that Vesta there, I love that energy she brings, because there's a certain type of dedication. You know, going back to what Monica said earlier when we were talking about the full moon, like this is about coming from the heart. Commitment often can sound like, okay, that's something that's work, and it's coming from my head. And it's sometimes, in my world at least, commitment can be like, I need to like just shut down and focus. But dedication, well, that's a different type of commitment. That's about, I'm interested in achieving something. I'm interested in being a part of this for the long haul. This is like, I'm going to be a disciple unto myself. That's a quote from Angeles Arian's books. And I love that. To me, that's the highest vibration of that Capricorn energy. So I love the fact that like, this is just a perfect time to get clear on what it is you want, who it is you want to be doing that with, and what are the things we're going to really dive in to make it happen, and what are we clearing out so that we can move forward on that path. It's just intense for sure, but also very beautiful energy.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just all together twisted in that huge full moon energy.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys have anything else to add in terms of the full moon, because I'd love to move to the Jupiter and Uranus.
Yeah, you just read my mind. I was like, let's talk about the other things. Jupiter sextile Aquarius, sextile Uranus. So let's tell people where they're at before we start talking about them. So we have Jupiter in Pisces at 10 degrees, making a sextile to Uranus. And later in the month, they will both be exact at 11 degrees. So who wants to jump in and talk about that first? Monica?
I would love to talk about Uranus. Why not? I I love everything that we talked about with the full moon, with the commitment, with the fear and building stuff and leading from the heart. And then you have this completely different energy of Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter in Pisces, expanding our vision, expanding that kind of spiritual side of us. And what I mean spiritual, it doesn't mean you have to be a spiritual person, but that place within you where you find your meaning. I think this is now getting expanded, getting highlighted by Jupiter. And with that energy of sextile is that kind of desire for something unexpected, for unexpected insights from Uranus. So I think there might be that kind of energy of out of the blue insights into your spiritual life, into what you truly desire, what you've been maybe hiding from yourself as well. Piscean energy is really good at hiding things in the depth as well. So you have that kind of Jupiter and Uranus blend together in really harmonious sextile aspect to bring that unexpected, out of the blue, maybe something that you haven't seen before, and suddenly that kind of strike of Uranian lightning bulb is just like, oh my God, it's just there. What I love about that as well is that expansion of the freedom that we want to have. So Uranian energy is very much Promethean energy. It's about where do we carry the torch of that insight. And in Taurus is like, how do we bring that fire of the gods into the earth? That's very much a Uranian energy for me there. And Jupiter giving it the boost, giving that kind of energy a little bit of luck, a little bit of abundance, a little bit of expansion. And given that we're still in that new moon Aquarian month, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful aspect for this month, to carry that energy, to carry that seed of the new moon energy that we planted, and have that luck on our side, that abundance on our side, that beauty of unexpected, maybe spiritual awakening. And it kind of sounds very, very big, but it might be that moment over a cup of coffee that you have. It's like, yeah, this is my call. This is my light. This is what I came here to give to the world. And it can be very, very, so to speak, simple and yet life-shattering and life-changing. So that's
gorgeous. I really like that, because my take on it is a little different, and that's making me feel a lot more balanced about some of the good that can come forward. And what are you thinking about, or how are you working with this lovely Jupiter-Uranus combo?
I thought about that when Monica said to find your own spirituality or find your own calling somehow. That I feel also that a lot of people maybe have struggled in the beginning of this year with a lot of things, and also feel that this is a bit of a liberating energy right now. So I would add this aspect being one of several things to add to this. But yeah, I noticed a bit more about that there's not so many aspects, planets making a lot of main aspects. So some of those planet energies are also a bit more pure in this chart, or how can you call it? It's possible for us maybe to be, they are not regulated by aspects, if we could call it that, or we can use the energies more freely with them, and the energies might also come and go more freely as they want to do in the chart. So this is also, it gives a bit more creative energy to it, or maybe that some during some phases we might feel, for example with Saturn, much more eager to do the routines and to stick to the schedule, and other times we might feel more than, well, I don't want to do this today, and more go into that that fish dream world maybe. So this is also interesting thing about the aspects in general that I noticed in the chart. But beautiful with Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus. That was real nice.
That was really nice.
Description.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out that for me, Uranus can also be Pele archetype energy. This can be the ground shattering, earth tumultuous, volcanic eruption. Life is changing, suddenly chaotic, without warning, certainly with a purpose of awakening us, of liberating us, of freedom. But what I feel is that with Uranus, often there's that message from the universe, hey, 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 you might want to think about changing this. Hey, 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 you know, you're like the vinyl record that's the needle stuck and it's time to go to the next song. Hey, 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 you know, the universe keeps coming and then finally it's like, okay, you're not listening to me. Bam. Now you must pay attention because the car has died and this has erupted or there's a flood in the house. And now you have to, I've been telling you to stop or I've been telling you to move. Now you must do that. And looking at Jupiter making this sextile, you know, Jupiter certainly always brings so much opportunity and good things. And I think everything Monica said is true. Like there's immense potential, but should we not utilize that potential? Should we not listen to the messages? Then I think there's also the potential for extreme, over the top, very dramatic outbursts, eruptions. So if we're not dealing with what we were mentioning earlier about nodes and Pluto and Venus and Mars, if we're not figuring out our passion or we're not working on relationships or we're not doing that thing that we know in our gut we need to be doing, if we're not doing that, I think there's potential here for great disturbance, eruption, chaos, in ways that feel very dramatic, at least initially, you know, before we are kind of forced, as it were, to look at the path that might lead us to some liberation and some spirituality and some happiness.
Yeah, if we don't learn the easy way, we might not have a choice but to learn through the shock to the system.
And like Anne was saying, a lot of the energy just feels very pure, very undiluted, because not only do we have few aspects, but everything's direct. Oh my God, everything is direct. And everything is direct until the end of April. I'm shocked because it's so rare to have that long of a period where you don't have at least, you know, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, you know, spending their 6 months out of the year in a retrograde period. So I was sharing with y'all earlier, I'm not really comfortable as a rule during those periods, those rare periods when everything is direct. I find that it's almost like, it's like every planet in my being has hit the gas pedal and wants to go at once. And I find it very hard to modulate, to regulate. I want to do too much. Or now suddenly I want to just sleep because, you know, my 12th house planet is like everybody's on fire at the same time. Everyone's just moving their energy. And it can be jolting to the senses, I believe. What do y'all think about direct planets? Do you pay much attention to that when they're all direct at once?
Especially after all those retrogrades. I am actually looking forward to that because the last retrograde of Venus and Mercury caused so much issues on my side or in my life that I am actually looking forward to coming out of that and actually moving forward and not looking back and not redoing the same thing and not going over the same material so many times. So I am actually looking forward to the energy going forward. I think it's like you say, it's what we're getting used to and what we can utilize. We know that this energy will be only here for a short period of time because we'll have some more retrogrades coming later in the year. But it is like all intensity. It's everything switched on at once, which can create, like you say, which can create a bit of chaos. Because when you have one side of you, one energy within your life, one archetype within your life really active, and another one a bit more subdued and a bit more within and internal, or at least the energy is going internal, then there is kind of balance. But this energy feels like we have to run and everything is just pushing us forward. And there is no moment to stop, to integrate what we've already done or learn. There's no time to reflect on what we've already done. So the next 2 months, I think it might be a little bit hectic, especially coming from that heavy retrograde period. It might feel like we're just like, oh my God, now I have a bit of air to breathe. I need to run for it and I need to fix all the 101 things that I couldn't fix in the last 2 months. And I need to do all the things that I had to put on a back burner or I had to redo. And now is that energy, fresh energy, where we can push. And the danger of that is a burnout. So I think it's a great energy. I am looking forward to utilizing it because, for goodness sake, the last 2 months have been tough. And I'm usually very good with Mercury retrograde. I really like, and Venus retrograde as well. I love the aspect of, I am all about reflecting and stopping and changing and being within that cycle of going forward and then stopping and going forward and then stopping. I think it's actually a healthy cycle for us. But that cycle for me was really tough and draining. So I am looking forward to moving forward to actually have everything going straight, going direct, going forward in that movement. But I am super aware not to grab everything at once, not to go 150%, 100 miles an hour, and being careful of using this energy in a smart way and not coming to April and suffering a burnout, which is so common in our society as well, in our culture that three of us live in. So yeah, I am excited. I definitely am excited.
And mentioning, you were mentioning that the Venus and the Mercury retrogrades have been so rough on top of all the Capricorn stellium we've been dealing with. So just a shout out that on February 24th, we officially are out of the post-shadow Mercury retrograde period. I am so looking forward to it because I don't know about anyone else, but I've been like, why does it still feel like Mercury's retrograde? She went direct, but I'm still dealing with the computer snafu stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that sense of moving forward and maybe some freedom, liberation from Uranus. We'll see how that
Did you say it's 24th?
Yeah.
So just a short plug, a Mercury story.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with my laptop that kind of broke down and I had to send it for repair. And they finally actually, the company said that they're going to replace my laptop. They took my old laptop, then they sent me the new one. I realized that the new one wasn't actually replacement like for like because it was missing some of the features that I had in my old one. So they said they're going to stop that and replace with another one. They didn't stop it. The old one came through. So I was told that when delivery will happen, I just have to refuse delivery and it will go back to the warehouse and they will release the new one. Delivery, I never had a chance to say no to delivery because delivery came back the day before it's supposed to and just dropped it in the porch. And so then I had to rearrange for the pickup to go back to the center. And only yesterday I found out that my new laptop, the replacement laptop, is not going to be released until probably later on this week. And I'm not going to get it until, get this, between 28th and like 3rd of March, 28th of February.
Oh my gosh.
After we will actually come out of the Mercury shadow. So I'm not usually that, I don't believe that Mercury is always all about the kind of material aspects of life. I think it's a lot to do with our internal processes. But oh my God, the last 2 months and that losing the laptop, losing the tool that I work with.
Yeah.
I mean, we're recording this podcast on my old one. That's causing me so many issues. The camera obviously is not as good as with the new one. So yeah, it's been an adjustment. It's been an adjustment about and also reflecting on what tools do I need to do my job, to be sustainable. So again, going back to the conversation and themes that we're talking about, there was a lot about communicating with people, being on hold, talking to numerous different customer service people. So I think I've been through like 6 or 8 senior advisors by now with hundreds of emails. But actually reflecting on what would happen if I didn't have that tool. My business is very much an online service. How do I communicate with yourself? We live in 3 different countries on 2 different continents. Without that tool, we wouldn't be where we are. This podcast wouldn't happen. So it's been an interesting actually time to reflect, as well as the really frustrating material side, physical side of the things. But it also has been interesting to see internal dialogue with myself about what is worth getting stressed over and getting frustrated over, and what other sustainable things I can put in place to ensure that I have longevity, that I have connection, that losing one thing is not going to topple everything else, that I have a backup drive or backup laptop or other ways of accessing the communication.
That is so Capricorn Aquarius, isn't it? Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
What a perfect story to represent that retrograde period.
Yeah. So I am looking forward when they will go direct, and it's interesting that my new laptop will actually arrive after the shadow will end, and I'm hoping I'm not going to have any more issues with that machine in the future.
Well, I hope that when we're together again, you're on it and life is calm and smooth, at least technology wise. So
knowing my chart and my transits, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
But
so
here's hope.
Hope. Yeah, we can hope, right? If nothing else. So a shout out to all of our early Pisces birthday followers. We did not mention the sun will be going into Pisces on February 18th, but we will be talking about that Pisces energy in our next podcast when we talk about the Pisces new moon. And I think, Monica, you mentioned that right on the day before the new moon, we have several aspects we'll be talking about in that podcast, but do you want to give people a heads up?
Yeah, so we'll be the Mars and Venus will come together again just before the new moon, and Mercury that just left Pluto will be coming up to Saturn as well. So it will be conjunct Saturn. So that will be interesting aspect to look out for as well.
We'll have a lot of fun stuff to talk about with that podcast, for no doubt.
Yeah.
All right. So we usually end with some ideas, tips, tricks, techniques. What do you guys feel like throwing out to folks to work with during this 2-week cycle?
I think I can start. So for me, what I noticed, which I already spoke about, is that Venus and Mars, they're coming together in Capricorn, and they rule the nodal axis. So something that is incredibly important because it shows us that the line of destiny, the path of destiny, if we will, they're coming together. And for me, it's very much at the full moon, if we can reflect at what is that we love and value, and what is that we fear to expose. What is it that we value in secret? What is it that we love in secret? What is the taboo in our life? Again, so many ways that can express itself, but what is it that we love so much and we desire to have that full moon live from the heart and be joyful about? But there is that fear of exposure, and how can we create the structures around that to actually take us forward? Use that Mars Capricorn energy to take action and live that beauty, live that desire, live that love in our life.
Gorgeous. Love that. Anne, what are your thoughts?
Thanks. I want to go back to the metaphor I talked about earlier, that I think that this is a time also about to pick and choose something that you want to go forward with, that you like. So I mean, with all those birds singing on a branch, so which tune is the one that you like, that inspire you, that makes you happy, and where do you want to go with that, and which is the right one to choose? to give you joy and inspiration. I think that is a thought that could be good to reflect on.
God, I love we're all ending with these happy notes. I love it. Mine is kind of similar. I'm thinking about the energy of that Venus-Mars conjunction in Capricorn. And so hopefully people have used the last 2 weeks to do some vision boarding, to embrace that Jupiter went into Pisces and we can dream the big dream. If not, now's the time to do it still. But if we have, what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking about looking at my vision board and how do I make the dream a reality? That's where I'm at with this, in a very uplifting, positive, I can do it kind of mindset, not in a it's hard, it's overwhelming mindset. This, how can I be positive? How can I tackle that and break it into steps that are actionable? This idea of actionable steps feels very much like Mars in Capricorn to me, and Venus is like actionable steps for the things I desire. Desire means I don't just want it. It's not just a vision that's some way in the future. It's I desire it, I can see it, I can taste it, I want it, and I want to be able to touch it now. So really kind of looking at that big dream and breaking it down. So I'm actually making, my goal is I've started cutting things out. I'm making a vision board for my vision board, which I've never done before. I'm looking at the vision board that I did with all that lovely new moon Aquarius energy of what was my big vision. And now I'm like, okay, out of all of these things I'm envisioning, what do I really desire now? And what can I do? And I'm creating a vision board of things that I can actually do in the coming months that are steps I can take to move me closer to it. And it feels the thought of that just feels very optimistic and positive and motivating. So I'll report back on how that works.
Looking forward to that.
All right. Well, as always, it's been a joy being with the two of you. And I can't wait to hear from our followers, their thoughts, their comments on your hurrah, the Mercury retrograde's over. We're still wanting to hear stories about how that was for you, or huzzah, I'm really excited about this Venus and Mars, or oh my God, you just explained the full moon, or how are you working with it? And are any of these touching planets in your chart? I always want to hear that, right? You guys have any parting words before we sign off and say goodbye? Well, with that, so long, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at the Pisces New Moon.
See you later.
See you.
Thank you for joining us in this week's AstroChat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.